Greetings from Sonoma Raceway, where it is a brisk 46 degrees this morning as we get set for the second of two races this weekend for GT America, powered by AWS. Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside, and we'll have Amanda Busick reporting from the pit lane. Fun race yesterday for GT America, powered by AWS. Memo Gidley scored the overall win, but Adam Adelson really broke onto the scene, scoring overall pole. He'll be on pole again today. So in two SRO 3 class starts in this series, he has 2 poles, and he's got a hungry field of SRO 3 drivers behind him. Yeah,
it's been so fun to get this season started. Adam didn't compete on the streets at St. Petersburg, so it was his debut in GT America here yesterday. Put on quite the show, and his confidence is growing, so let's see what he can do today. The start yesterday was so important. Memo knows that. He's really done that the last 2 races, the last 2 victories that he's got around James Safronis at St. Pete, yesterday on Adam. So that run up the hill should be thrilling here at the start of this race.
And there is Adam's car, the Rova Pole Award winning car. He'll have George Kurtz starting to his outside, the reigning SRO 3 champion. But in that second row, that's where you'll find Memo Gidley. 2 wins already this season, so much experience, and he'll be relying on it because it is so cold. And unlike in Fanatec GT, no tire warmers here for GT America, powered by AWS.
Yeah, all of the drivers, particularly the GT3 runners with more horsepower, of course, so keeping these cars underneath them during the opening corners is going to be tricky. But Memo Gidley knows this track so well. It's his home circuit, and the team knows the track well. They do most of their testing here, so they'll be the favorites going in.
Let's go down pit side and welcome in Amanda Busick.
Good morning, gentlemen. I know we were talking before we headed down to the track today if it was warmer down here. We thought it might be when we got out of the car, but being down here now, I'm not so sure. And talking to the drivers, they're not so sure either. This race was run yesterday at 1 p.m. local here in Sonoma. They did qualify in this hour yesterday. I was talking to Rob Holland about what kind of experience that takes without no tire warmers in this series, so just managing those tires and getting them up to temp. He said, I don't want to call myself old, but I'm hoping veteran status will help me here today. He's going to lead that GT4 field to the green flag. But you were talking about Memo Gidley. I happened to catch him right before this race started, and he was hanging out with his 2-year-old daughter right in Parc Formé before they pulled onto the track. A little high fives to kick off the race for Dad as he looks to double up here at his home track.
And he'll have another St. Pete winner starting alongside in Jason Daskalos. Of course, it is 2 classes in GT America, powered by AWS. SRO 3, which we've been talking about, basically a catch-all class for previous and current generation GT3 cars. But then GT4 mixed into the field as well. And Rob Holland, who Amanda referenced earlier, he won yesterday. He's on pole, and his performance, I would say, in race 1 was commanding.
It was. It looked like once Jason Bell got clear of the pack, he might be able to hunt him down. But then when you look at the fast laps of the race, Rob Holland was in a league of his own, and that's why he's got the pole position based on that fast lap yesterday. So he's got the experience, but Jason Bell is a pretty forceful guy. Our champion from 2 years ago. He's been quick here this weekend. He's looking to go one better than he did here yesterday.
He was quick at St. Pete as well. That's the black and yellow Aston that just came through the picture. That there was Jason Bell, who made the cross-country trek to be here, the native of Florida, of course. 2 formation laps this weekend at Sonoma, and this race in particular, I think that's going to factor in because prepping those tires, prepping those brakes for the start of the race in these cold conditions could be crucial. Starting grid, Adam Adelson, as mentioned, starts on the pole position. George Kurtz, the reigning champ, to his outside. Then we move back to the second row. That's where you find Memo Gidley and Jason Daskalos. They split the weekend in St. Petersburg, looking to do the same as Jason Daskalos here, but he'll have to do it from 4th. Anthony Bartone, impressive rookie in the GT3 ranks. He'll start 5th. Kyle Washington for GMG will start 6th. Todd Treffert, teammate to Daskalos, a veteran of vintage racing, 7th place starting position for him, and Mirko Schultes in that Callaway Corvette in 8th. Andy Wilczak for Flying Lizard Motorsports, and Alex Vogel for the Molitor Racing Systems MRS team in 10th, and Ziad Gondor at the back of the field in the TR3 Racing Mercedes. That's the SRO 3 starting grid. We'll turn our attention next to GT4, where Rob Holland is set to roll off from the pole position. Jason Bell will start to his outside in a very competitive GT4 field. Todd Coleman due to roll off in the 4th spot. Ross Schwest in 3rd. Gray Newell will start 5th. Elias Sabo 6th. Rob Walker, Tony Gaples back in the 4th row. 5th row, Nick Shanny and Tim Savage. And John Branham in a TR3 GT4 Aston Martin at the back of the GT4 field. Always an interesting combination between GT3 cars and GT4. We certainly saw traffic play a role in St. Petersburg, and to a degree that was the case yesterday too.
Yeah, certainly has to be managed. You'll get that overlap, particularly if we stay green here for the 40 minutes where the faster GT3 cars will get to the tail end of the GT4 machines, and that great opportunity and obviously anxiety for the leaders if you just want a clear run to the finish. But right now, as you mentioned, Ryan, these prep laps are going to be so important in terms of trying to build some temperature into all of the systems, particularly into those tires. And what the drivers do, we talk about it a lot, is really run the brake pedal hard against the throttle. So you're two pedaling it and just trying to really drive some temperature up through the brakes, through the upright, into the wheel itself, and ultimately into the tire as well.
This is a tough old racetrack in the best of conditions. Cars slipping and sliding around, tires degrading over the course of this 40-minute race, but when you're rolling off with 46-degree ambient temperatures, should be a little bit warmer than that on the track with the sun out and the track surface soaking in some of that sunshine. But that said, this place just got a little bit harder just because of the conditions this morning, and as you can see, it's already bit one of the competitors. That's Alex Vogel off the track in his Porsche 911 GT3R. And one thing we should say is we've had a lot of rain in this part of the country over the past few weeks, including earlier in the week. And some of these areas off track, it looks nice, it looks green, but it's pretty muddy down underneath.
It is, as you can see, zero traction there, and with it being so muddy, it kind of high-sides the car, and then the slick Pirelli P0s are not going to grab any track. Let's try and see how this one develops here. I think it's coming through the S's there, just lights up the rear tires, it looks like. Goes for a ride. Looks harmless enough, but obviously got to get him out of there, and may delay the start here, which might not be a bad thing. Allows all these other drivers to keep working on their cars and prepping for the start of this race.
It's tough there for Alex Vogel, who contested the 24 Hours of Dubai for this team earlier this year, running a 992 Cup car, so not a GT3 car. His step into GT3 racing began at St. Petersburg, and safe to say there was a learning curve there. Tough place to cut your teeth if you're stepping into a new car and competitive racing at this level for the first time. The tight confines of a street course are very unforgiving. This place a little bit less so, but still it has its challenges.
It really does, and what the team or the drivers can do is work with the TC a little bit in these prep laps, you know, wind that TC up so it's got more interrupts so it doesn't allow you to get that big burst of acceleration. If you're sliding, once the car's in a yaw state, it's not going to help you there, but under just strict acceleration, if you got the TC ramped up a little bit for these formation laps, it may help that situation.
A great close-up there of Adam Adelson at Wright Motorsports Porsche. The previous generation car, you see Vogel still mired in the mud off the track, and yeah, this will delay the start for sure. We were supposed to be coming around to take it here. Suspect the clock could start.
Yeah, clock will need to start because obviously in terms of fueling, you fuel them up for 40 minutes. So if you suddenly had 5-minute delay, that would not be good for everyone if they're running pretty tight in terms of the fuel load. Cars typically are faster the lighter they are, so you don't want any surplus gas on board.
But it was a cool shot back to the Adam Adelson car of that livery. Love the green, that yellow stripe down vertically on the car. And inside of that stripe, if you can take a look here, the track layout of all of the tracks on the calendar this year embedded into that stripe. I think it's one of the sharpest looking paint schemes in this paddock, and that's saying something. There's about 140 cars here across 5 different series. So if you're one of the best looking cars out of that bunch, you're in rarefied air.
Cars look even better when they're fast, right? So in the Wright Motorsports Porsche, this is the older generation, not the new 992 that the team is campaigning for. Jan Halen and Charlie Luck in Fanatec GT. So this is the older generation car, but still got a lot of speed. I think in some ways, first half of the year, maybe it's got as much, if not more speed than the new car before they get their heads totally wrapped around it.
And Adam is also campaigning this car in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. He and Elliott Skier were awesome yesterday. And Adam did a great job at his stint. Elliott held serve against some of the top pros in GT3 racing, and I think they announced their presence as a team to keep an eye on. Since we're in this delay, let's look again at our grid for this second race of the weekend. I think we got all the way through the starting grid for SRO 3, but down at the bottom with the yellow number plates, that's the GT4 class, Holland, Bell, Schwest, and Coleman. And for Todd Coleman, great to have him here. There was some question about that car. It suffered some serious damage, and at one point they thought perhaps the tub could have been compromised, but the good news was apparently after looking at that, they gave it the okay, and the car's been repaired by the Archangel guys, and he'll be able to take the start.
That's good news. As you can see here, the clock has indeed started, so time is winding down on this 40-minute race, and really good for these cars to get that extra lap, a little bit more prep. You could see as we came across the stripe that in fact Adelson locked up the brakes there a little bit, so you can tell that there's still not the maximum amount of tire temperature that you're looking for. I think the real key on the start here, Ryan, once we get to that point, is going to be George Kurtz on the front row. Can he hold off Mabel Gidley from the outside?
Right.
That's going to be really critical for him, because I think if Mabel can jump ahead of Kurtz, he could immediately start to put the pressure on Adelson.
That's right, and we've seen Memo so good on these starts here this year. So as you can see in the top left of the screen, the clock has indeed started. So this race begins under the safety car. One thing that does is it takes that tire conservation just a little bit less out of the equation, a little more out of the equation.
Yes.
Because it's amazing. Over 40 minutes yesterday, we saw a drop-off in lap times around 3 seconds, and that has nothing to do with the tires themselves. That's simply about the surface at this track, which is known for doing exactly that. It does look like the lights are off on the Toyota GR Supra safety car, so the field should start packing up. And I think because this is a yellow flag, effectively restart of the race, it will be single file.
That really helps out Adelson, because it doesn't give Memo that inside lane slot as we climb the hill.
So here they come into the VP Racing acceleration zone. Adam Adelson for the second straight day on the pole position, and he starts to accelerate away. There's the green flag here at Sonoma Raceway. Adelson, Kurtz, and Gidley. That's the order as they run up the hill.
Nice clean start here. Adelson got the nice jump, timed that perfectly, took the pressure off, and this is the GT4 field coming through with Rob Holland in the lead with Jason Bell right on the tail of that Porsche.
This is the closest Bell has been to Holland throughout the course of this weekend. I'm really curious to see if he can take the fight to him. Meanwhile, Gidley looking very aggressive early on, looking left, looking right, trying to plot a course around George Kurtz.
Yeah, his car came alive really quickly in the race here yesterday. It looks like it's got a bit more grip than George Kurtz is having to tiptoe a little bit at this stage of the game. This is going to be critical here, getting on the power early, getting a run out of turn 6, trying to get in a position to outbrake George down into that brake zone for the next corner.
Adelson has scampered away, so the fight is on here for second. Memo Gidley flashing those headlights. He's got Jason Daskalos waiting in the wings as well. Daskalos had some daring moves on the streets of St. Petersburg to score a win 1 month ago in the opening weekend of the season for the championship. So Gidley and Daskalos, they've sparred before, and Gidley will know Daskalos will attack if given the opportunity.
Yeah, I love his aggression in terms of behind the wheel. You see him there peeking to the inside. Gidley has to protect. You see Anthony Bartone there right on the tail here, and George Kurtz has got into a rhythm really quickly here. He had a really solid day yesterday, looking strong once again, but Adelson has skipped away a little bit.
Bartone, what a great job. This is just his second weekend of GT3 racing at this level. He's got the real-time team behind him. They are the team behind the Bartone Brothers Racing Squad. And he has been a quick study, jumping up from a limited GT4 schedule 1 year ago.
He really has had that little moment in qualifying, unfortunately, yesterday for the Fanatec GT sessions. Cost Andy Pilgrim his opportunity as well to qualify, so they've been on the back foot there. But it's all about the learning process. It's a steep learning curve, but you know, this young man, Anthony Bartone, certainly seems to be up to the task. But George Kurtz now has really got into rhythm here, and he's closed in on our leader, Adelson, early.
That's right. It was over a second for a time. Let's take a look at this replay.
Is that Shani out wide?
Yes.
Yeah, just got in over the hill, just out wide. You're in the grey, and the road doesn't help you just as you need a bit more grip. goes downhill. Got away with that one.
Also saw Wilczek in the back of that shot in an SRO 3 car. Not sure how he got back there, but he's starting to make his way through the GT4 field for Flying Lizard Motorsports. Looks like Ziad Gondor did not take the start of this race. Let's focus in, though, on the battle for third in the GT4 ranks. That's Todd Coleman, the car that they thought might have been a write-off yesterday, but the repairs are made, and look at him now, putting all the pressure in the world on Ross Schwest.
Yeah, it's a great little battle there between the two Aston Martin. Jason Bell in a similar car, of course. Got a little gap on these, taking the pressure off. That's great for him to be able to focus forward and try and see what Rob Holland is doing. Oh, late move down to the inside there for Coleman. That's not going to work too far back. Problem if you do that and then you get into the ABS, basically you're like a little bit of a missile there because you're not slowing down the car enough, but you got away with it.
Working on the reigning GT4 champion in GT America. Boy, you could see that car squirming. He was hard on the binders.
Yeah, he's dancing on his toes there down into that brake zone for that hairpin corner, turn 11. Keeping it together. He's so much more at home aboard that Aston Martin this year. Great battle developing here between Daskalos and Bartone. This is the battle for fourth.
Daskalos, the veteran, Bartone, a rookie at this level of racing, also competing in Fanatec GT, where he shares a Mercedes with Andy Pilgrim.
Bartone to the inside. Daskalos took a wide sweep there, wide approach. Later turn-in point. Didn't make a mistake, but that's just his preferred line. And Bartone thought, I'll take that inside lane, but couldn't quite get there.
This is the run right down the back part of the drag strip into tight turn number 7. Now through the high-speed S's.
Cars look to be working really well in these relatively mild conditions. Tires still relatively fresh, so it's a really good spot to be feeling these cars out. They're going to be feeling great underneath these drivers right now before this race starts to wear on a little bit.
Back to the battle for third and fourth in GT4. Let's hear more about it from Amanda in the pits.
When I was talking to the Archangel team this morning and Todd Coleman, Ryan, I do believe this is the car that finished P4 in this race yesterday. It wasn't that GT4 race where Todd got in the back of the harder racing Aston Martin, and they're not sure if that car is tubbed or not. As you see the pass there on Todd, he's going to want to protect this car because this is the exact car that'll race in the Pirelli GT4 race later today as well.
Thanks for the correction, Amanda. You're right. I forgot he's got 2 different chassis across the 2 series. So, yep, that it was the other car that suffered that damage. The good news then is, as long as all goes well here today in this race, he has a second piece he can work with in the Pirelli GT4 America race later on this morning. But he does, to Amanda's point, have to preserve this race car.
Yeah, and that's somewhat in the back of your mind, but you know what races are like. Once you get into the battle there, you're not really thinking about the race in a couple of hours. You're thinking about the moment in this one and trying to gain position.
Gidley and Kurtz, second and third overall, and in SRO 3. Gidley, the fastest car on the racetrack that last time by, ran a 140.1. Adelson a 140.3, the next closest. Gidley picked up a half a second on George Kurtz on that last lap alone.
Yeah, and we saw Gidley's car come alive yesterday, but he didn't seem to have the same pace towards the end, so maybe they've made some subtle adjustments here to make it a little bit better in the long run, but he's really fighting it there, trying to get the power down, a little twitch. You can see the hands working on the wheel there, trying to grab all that 6.3-liter V8 power coming off that corner.
How about this move? Bartone sends it around the outside of Daskalos. How compromised will Jason be?
That was nice. That was really nicely timed. Daskalos kind of stalled him out just a little bit there. I think he didn't quite time it perfectly, but it's a really good move that he's trying to line up Daskalos on the exit of that corner.
Impressive racecraft for someone who is very new to road racing, although he has had the benefit of learning at the feet of Andy Pilgrim over the past several years.
Yeah, what a great mentor to have in your camp, and I love the way that Bartone is really working the lines. You can see him really trying to widen these radiuses, getting through these corners to be able to pick up the throttle a slight bit sooner than Daskalos, maybe grab something on the exit.
And they're keeping Adelson honest. Did Adelson drop back? He did.
Oh, he's in front of George.
Oh, I'm
I think
sorry.
He's got some traffic in front of him there.
Yep, you're right. Yep, that is Alex Vogel, the car that was stuck off track on the formation lap.
Love where Bartone has got the confidence, in the handling of this machine, but also just his driving. I mean, this is not an easy place to just really feel the edge of the road. So many times you're climbing through elevation changes. Your sight lines are somewhat blind at times, but he's got the confidence to place the car out there at the extremities of the circuit and try and take advantage. Look at this. This is heating up nicely.
Hammer and tong between Daskalos in the lead car and Bartone. Oh, here he comes, taking a lunge to the inside. Can he get alongside of Daskalos? Doesn't look like it.
Awesome battle, awesome battle. Great little race we got going on here, nicely controlled.
28 minutes to go in race 2 of the weekend. Amanda, back to you.
Standing by the real-time racing team watching this battle go on, and this is exactly what they want to see out of Anthony. It was his craft in St. Petersburg that led them to wanting to know that they also wanted to race in that AM entry in the Fanatec GT World Challenge. They've been really impressed with Anthony. You talk about the issue that he had yesterday. I was talking to the team earlier about that qualifying mistake, and they said, and Cal, I'd like to hear you add on this, they said it's a good thing that racers have short-time memories.
Yeah. Sometimes you want to put your mistakes in the background there, but I think Anthony Bartone realized he's going to have these little blips. But I tell you what, as these two battle, look at Kyle Washington. He is really catching this duo very, very quickly there in that GMG Porsche. It's going to be a 3-car battle. We know that Kyle likes to get his elbows out and have a go here.
Oh, yeah. No shortage of aggression in this trio. I guess the one question mark is Bartone. We haven't seen a whole lot of him over the past few years, but stepping into a full season of GT America running in SRO 3, plus that AM class entry that Amanda alluded to in Fanatec GT. And certainly Daskalos in Washington, their track records speak for themselves. And Daskalos has his hands full. You can see his hands working inside the cockpit, and it looks like he's going to have to be very defensive here. Bartone has a run.
Yeah, this is a great dice. I mean, no one's crossing the line at this point in terms of doing anything that the stewards will be feisty about. It's just a good, hard battle at this point.
Bartone has to settle back in, takes a peek down the front stretch. Not close enough. Tough place to make a move here at Sonoma.
It is. Bartone there likes to run a little bit wide and then hold the car to the left, so he'll get really on the power nice and early here, exiting this corner.
A replay of a battle here. Rob Holland, Todd Coleman,
oh, wow.
And Todd gets up on 2 wheels. Oh, and a cut tire. Left front is down for the race 1 winner and the pole sitter, Rob Holland.
How did he get up there? Because he was behind Jason Bell, and suddenly it was Coleman attacking for the lead there. He survived by the looks of it.
He did. Stewards will have a look, I have no doubt.
There had to be a moment earlier on for that setup to even have those cars in that position. Because Coleman was in a battle with Schwess last time we looked at this GT4 battle, and suddenly it was a battle for the lead between he and Holland, so I wonder if traffic came into play.
And from the lead, Rob Holland has dropped down the order. Where that happened,
yeah, it's
basically
gonna be a
has to
long
limp
lap
all
back.
the way around.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Ugh. That is heartbreaking for Rob.
I can't believe that Coleman's car didn't get damaged in that one. There was a moment that created that scenario with those cars battling for the lead there. But right now, Holland has that lead, and we saw at St. Petersburg, he's just loving life with this switch over to the Aston Martin Vantage. Let's take another look at this, see how it evolves. They're all stacked up there. So Holland's struggling here a little bit, and Coleman just gets a big run off that turn 9 chicane. And he's on the attack. I wonder if Holland was already struggling again. There's the contact.
I think that's what did it.
Yeah.
To the left front.
That was unfortunate because Holland pretty much stayed in a straight line. I think that Coleman just anticipated him carving it into the corner, and it didn't happen. So the two cars met.
Contact aside, though, impressive drive from Coleman, who, to your point, was back a couple of positions the last time we saw him, and he had gotten around Bell and then up to Rob to be in a position to even attempt that pass.
Adelson is loving life in this switch from GT4 machinery that he and Elliott shared last year. And he is right at home. This is, you know, we talk about new season surprises. This is a great surprise to see him perform so well on his debut season in GT3 machinery.
You never know how that transition is going to go. And actually, George Kurtz, who's running in second right here, is a good example of that. He had some success, won a GT4 championship, and it took him a few years, I think it's safe to say, to totally get comfortable with the GT3. But for other drivers, something about the GT3 is a more natural fit.
It is. It's got more downforce. It does things a little bit better. And you got to step up your game. Everything's happening faster and quicker, of course, but nonetheless, it sometimes can be a better fit for someone. But Adelson has certainly shown great pace in GT4 machinery last year. I think it was good timing. They found a great group with Wright Motorsports. But we focus in on this battle. George Kurtz is doing an excellent job. He fended off Gidley here. Looks like he's put him to bed in terms of the attack from behind. Now he's focused forward on Adelson and cutting some really good laps. He was 4/10 quicker on that last lap than our leader.
Fight between Bartone and Daskalos has broken off. Bartone up to 4th, Daskalos 5th, and now Kyle Washington draws a bead on Jason Daskalos, but he got in pretty hard and pretty deep there.
It can tempt you, and it's downhill, so if you're getting a little bit deep, there's not a lot of the help from the racetrack itself. Like Kurtz may have lost out a little bit on that exchange, getting through Shandy and traffic there through turn 6. You can't hit the get out of the way button. It's sometimes you're on line and just cost the faster traffic coming up behind you.
Closing in on the halfway mark of this race, and with it, that portion of the race where the two classes are going to start to overlap. Ooh, big move up the inside. Tony Gaples saw it coming, give him credit. In that Camaro, able to stay wide and allow Tim Savage in that TRG Aston to come through.
Yeah, Tony's he's so excited to be back in competition this year, but he really feels that this Camaro is not that well suited to this circuit. They made some major changes to the setup. Ray Sorensen with the Black Dog Speed Shop organization trying to get the car a bit more underneath Tony, a bit better on the long green flag run, but we expect to see Tony moving forward. He's not always the best qualifier in the world, but boy, he comes alive in races.
This from Race Control, incident under review. That is the Coleman Holland incident that we have seen several shots of. Put your Stewart hat on, Cal. What did you see?
Well, I don't think Rob Holland did anything wrong. It was a subtle move by Coleman here. Take another look at it. He kind of turns in. Look, they're both pretty much in a straight line. That would be a harsh one to take the leader out. It's just unfortunate racing incidents. They just didn't give each other enough breathing room here. I think Coleman was expecting Rob to start to head for the apex and just timed it a little bit incorrectly.
Now that review hangs over the GT4 race leader, Todd Coleman, who has a 2.6 second advantage over Jason Bell. John Branham is giving the TR3 Racing Aston Martin a great run. He's up to 3rd. Ross Schwest 4th, and Elias Sabo right now in 5th.
Yeah, Branham is absolutely flying, cutting laps about half a second to 3/4 of a second faster than the guys in front of him, so he is on the charge right now. Getting back to that moment with Coleman, I think that Stewart's decision could go either way. They'll be looking at it and just seeing who was at fault, and I think the real key is it wasn't just the change of position, the fact that Holland's day was effectively over in terms of a result. That will play a part.
Branham started at the very back of the field, started 25th overall, last in GT4, and finds himself 3rd.
Yeah, he's flying.
Let's take a look at this. Bartone on Gidley. How about this from the GT3 rookie?
He is hooked up. Look at him. He has got the confidence behind the wheel, fighting it there, coming off that chicane. At the fastest lap in race 2 at St. Petersburg. And he is getting to grips with these GT3 cars in a hurry.
Man, And I brought it up earlier, the plan this year was not to run Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS. If you were with us in St. Pete, you saw 2 cars entered in GT America by the Bartone Brothers Racing real-time racing team. Andy Pilgrim was in one, Anthony was in the other, but it went so well in St. Pete, they said, why not? They took that chassis that had been dedicated to Andy here in GT America and set it aside, and they're going Fanatec GT racing in 2023 because the learning curve has been so impressively short for Anthony Bartone. This is Savage.
See some pieces flying there. Savage on Walker here. That is for position.
It's a little bit further back, 7th, I think, in GT4, something to that effect.
Bartone, 18 minutes to go. Getting chased down George Kurtz.
Want to see what his lap time is now that he's clear of Gidley and compared to the top 2 who are about to hit the back of the GT4 field. This could be an opportunity.
Really couldn't. I want to look at George Kurtz's lap here as well. I saw him a little bit wider look through the carousel. I'm not going to see how that affects his lap time. Yeah, he lost about 3/10 there. He lost 6/10 there to the leader. Yeah, there's a little bobble in the middle sector, which we did see on screen. Just got wide there and had to really be patient and not fly off the road on the exit. So that's cost him a bit of an opportunity here as the leader has now hit traffic.
Out of the top 5, Bartone is the fastest car on track. Kyle Washington was marginally quicker, running back in 6th. He's still chasing Jason Daskalos in the fight for 5th and 6th. We watch and see how do these leaders handle the traffic. This is something that's new for Bartone. Keep in mind, he was in a GT4 car when he raced here last year, so it's a much different experience being in the top class rather than the slower class.
It is. Sometimes if you got that GT4 or the lower class car experience, you do know where the compromises are for that driver that you're trying to get around. So it really helps the whole knowledge pack in terms of identifying where to make a move. Washington's having a really solid run here today. P6 at the moment. Dragonfly Porsche.
Lap times have been great, and he has caught up now.
Gidley having to be super protective there in the brake zone. Sorry, this is Daskalos.
Yes.
In front of these 2.
Similar looking paint
They are.
schemes. Okay,
There we
Kurtz
go.
held up by Savage. Bartone saw it coming, trying to roll around the outside, but not an on grip there. Hard to get the power down, and he'll have to try again.
That's the learning curve, just knowing that a little bit deeper into the stint, you can't ask so much of those front tires. He went for that late cut. Front just gave up on him, washed out a little bit, and he lost ground instead of gaining.
And he's been balked now by 2 successive GT4 cars. This is going to cost him a great deal of time relative to George Kurtz. Adelson has been able to knife through this traffic. He's now built a 3-second lead. Adam Adelson looking for his first win in the SRO 3 class in GT America.
Yeah, and that's going to take a ton of pressure off because Kurtz there for a moment was looking threatening, wasn't he? Sitting back there about a second off the tail of the leader. And then George had a lap there that lost a bit of ground, then hit some traffic, and suddenly it's ballooned up to over 3 seconds. And that's a nice safety margin to have in terms of the cushion when you're in traffic. You don't have to panic so much. You don't have to be so forceful. Beautiful morning here. So cool to be here at Sonoma Raceway at this time of the year with the green grass. Related to a golf course when the grass is dormant and suddenly it springs to life. It really just shapes the whole facility so much nicer.
Almost unrecognizable from the shots of this place any other time of the year. Oh, Kurtz is under a lot of pressure now. Bartone right to the back bumper of George Kurtz. Nowhere to go with that run.
Yeah, and this is allowing Adelson just to get further and further away as George is having to compromise his lines and his speed here. You see him there looking momentarily to see if Anthony was going to make a move to the inside. Little slip there coming off. Starting seeing the cars moving around, and Todd Coleman has been given a drive-through penalty for incident responsibility with that contact with Rob Holland, and this will promote Now John Branham up to the lead, so he's got around Jason Bell, so we have a new leader in GT4. We thought it would be Bell. No, it's Branham. What a day for him.
How about that? So he had tracked down and passed Jason Bell for the lead in GT4. Or, well, for second in GT4. Now Todd Coleman serving that drive-through penalty. John Branham leading Bell, and Elias Sabo up to third place in the GT4 class. And right here, the battle is joined. Memo Gidley and Jason Daskalos, they're fighting over fourth place in SRO 3.
Yeah, this is great stuff. Going to see a compression here of this little pack. Like Bartone had a little bit of a moment there in the middle of the carousel. Kurtz is regrouped here nicely. There's our GT4 battle for the lead right there. The silver Aston Martin just turning in right now. That's Branham, our GT4 leader. The black and yellow car, that is Jason Bell. And the reason we brought that up, I could just see a flash of Coleman coming down pit lane with that drive-through a lap ago, but Kurt's now having to deal with this. How does he time this? Bartone's be hungry for the position here. Gotta be so careful that you don't activate that AWS system, because you just lose your braking ability. You roll forward, just good, clean racing here. Tight quarters, but clean.
How remarkable has this performance from Bartone been? He is a total neophyte when it comes to road racing, certainly in a GT3 car, but he's driving like a veteran today.
He looks like a natural. He just seems to be able to be in rhythm with the car, positioning the car, comfortable with doing that, not making mistakes, not making slip-ups. At this point, long way to go yet, but great race so far.
This is John Branham, the leader in GT4, racing for TR3 Racing, longtime entrant of Ferraris and Lamborghinis, making the switch though, running a Mercedes in Fanatec GT and the Aston platform here in GT4. And how about this, Calvin? The top 6 in GT4 are all Aston Martin Vantages.
That is wild. It's certainly the dominant car. Mercedes kind of is the dominant car in terms of choice in GT3, and the Aston Martin is the preferred choice, it seems, these days in GT4. It's just super user-friendly, seems to work well at a variety of circuits, and a good fit, particularly for the AM drivers. It's comfortable to drive, gives you the confidence. You can see guys like John Branham putting on performances like this. Obviously home turf for TRG, been based here in this neck of the woods for many, many years.
Branham last year ran the Indianapolis 8-hour for TR3 Racing, joining Corey Lewis and Jeff Burton for that race, in addition to running plenty of GT4 races, frequently paired with Paul Keebler. It's a familiar livery, but new team and new car for John, who has been running a lot in Mercedes GT4 cars over the years.
Bartone is really hustling that car now. I think the tires are starting to go away just a little bit, so I'm very sideways there, trying to get the power down off of turn 9 in a little bit deep there into the brake zone. So that's where the experience comes in. You think, okay, there's a lot more on the table. Then you find as you start to push deeper, you're already on the limit, and then you're driving over the limit. So that's the sensitivity, trying to narrow that kind of delta that you have between feeling where the car will give you pace and where it will not.
Adam Adelson continues to show the way with 11 minutes to go in race 2 of the weekend. Wright Motorsports, one of the very best in North America at prepping Porsche GT3 race cars. And they've got a good piece under Adam Adelson right now. He's built a 5.6-second lead over this scrap for the second spot, which has raged now for the better part of 15 minutes. George Kurtz has fended off every challenge from Anthony Bartone, who has been probing the defenses, hasn't found that weak spot yet.
Yeah, and I think for George Kurtz coming into this season, champion last year, pretty dominant, but he realized there's a ton more Mercedes, there's a lot higher level of driver, and this is going to be a championship. I don't think it's going to be won by someone who just dominates. I mean, Gidley's got 2 wins under his belt already, but today, for example, Kurtz is going to claw back some of that points advantage with Gidley back in 4th position and George running in 2nd right now. So I think that's the sort of season we're going to start to see evolve, I think, where it's nip and tuck, trying to claw some of the points back on certain weekends. Much to choose between these Mercedes, and we talk about the dominance of Mercedes. You've got a Porsche leading still. And you got that Porsche of Kyle Washington sitting in there in 6th, so the kind of the bread in a Mercedes sandwich, I guess.
Absolutely.
What a great shot that is,
So
firing
good.
up the hill.
So good.
And this is a really tricky sector there. You got the big elevation change climbing the hill through turn 1, kind of crest there. It looks pretty flat coming off that corner, but when you're behind the driver's seat, you're kind of peeking over the dash, so to speak, trying to look for the road. And particularly here, it's blind right there. You don't know where you're going. You hope you got the car position straight. But later in the stint, the tires are starting to slip and slide a little bit more, and you're closer to the edge of the road than you were before.
This could be a breakout year for Kyle Washington. He's been part of the GMG stable for several seasons at this point. Very busy, racing in multiple series over the past several years, gaining that seat time, gaining that experience, coming to road racing from an off-road racing background. He won the Baja 400 back in 2019, has been involved in trophy truck racing for a long time. I got hooked up with James Safronis and Joe Foster, the rest of the GMG bunch, and they've been shepherding him along, and his pace is starting to come. Really, the pace was never the issue with Kyle, but dialing in the aggression to the appropriate level, the racecraft, and he's starting to find the perfect mix.
Yeah, and I think we see that with a number of our drivers in the field, even here today. We talked about that with Jason Bell in GT4, right? Showed speed, but just would make those little errors and gradually just fine-tune his craft to the point that he's a regular winner. Won the championship a couple of years ago and certainly one of the favorites with the lead in the championship at this point in time, and running 2nd here today. So it's fun to see these drivers evolve. They come in with some raw ability, but there's a lot more to it than that. The preparation, the fitness factor, the focus, eliminating the little mistakes is really the key at this stage of the game. Bartone here trying to regroup here. Time is running out though. Kurz has driven brilliantly here. Had the pressure on Adelson. I think that is a long shot now for the victory, unless Adelson hits traffic or has an issue, but George is staying really focused here. Hasn't had the best start to his campaign. Got involved in someone else's problem on the streets of St. Pete early in race 1. That put him on the back foot. Race 2 as an interrupted race and no time on the clock ready to move forward. So he's having to regroup here a little bit.
How much of that hard charge that we saw from Bartone 5 minutes or so ago, how much does that hurt the tires?
It does. I could see there he's starting to overdrive. You can see it there. He's a little bit crossed up coming out, so starting to lose traction coming off. I mean, George is keeping it neat and tidy, but Anthony keeps digging deep, asking for a little bit more. Car off. That's Jason Bellis on the exit of turn 7.
2nd place in GT4 at the time of the incident, and he might have nosed into that concrete retaining wall as well. Under 7 minutes to go. Will he be able to extricate himself, or would this bring out the safety car, which would in effect probably bring a halt to the proceedings here today?
Yeah, and he's not in a super dangerous spot, but if he got there, someone else could, right? So it's not as like in a firing zone, but if someone else looped it around there, I'm not sure if he got help there or if he just got too aggressive. Safety car is out, full course yellow.
2nd of the race, the first since we've gone green. We had a delayed start due to a spin on the formation lap. So we started behind the safety car, but this is...
Look at this, Bartone has got around Kurz.
Oh my goodness, you're right.
So did that happen before we went yellow?
Ooh. Let's look at this. You can see at the top of the screen, yep.
Yeah, just by himself. I think he was chasing after the lead. A pretty good impact there. You can see the hood and probably the front fender dislodged, and also he's on a bit of a decline there, so he probably couldn't get himself out of that situation, even if the car is relatively healthy. And I don't see this getting cleaned up in time, Ryan, unfortunately, but curious to know if Bartone got around Kurz before it went full course yellow, or whether it was one of those scenarios where Kurz got the message before Bartone did and Bartone flew by him.
I'd be very curious to see that myself. As far as this incident goes, I think you were spot on. Bell had caught John Branham and was putting the pressure on to try and take the lead, and with it the win. This is a tough section of track. The S's have a great flow to them. You're running behind someone, your sight lines are a little bit different.
And I was talking to Jason about the TC on the Aston Martin. They've got a new system on it this year, and it's a lot more kind of linear, where you do basically on or off before. Now there's 10 different settings, and he works with that during the course of the race as the tires start to wear a little bit. This was before we think we went yellow. This is Bartone on the attack here, into the brake zone for the chicane, gets it down to the inside, so I think this is a legit pass.
Wow. And surely he would have known. The team would have told him, go, go, go. We'll probably see a safety car. Make that pass if you can. And he has been strong all race long, entering turn 9, entering that chicane. Was able to slide it up in the inside of George Kurtz, and he kept it clean.
Did. Good heads up there by George. He realized that he was too far alongside to fight it at that stage of the game.
And he's been in this game a while now, has George. He's going to play the long game. He knows that top 3 points, if you play that out over the course of the season, if you can do that regularly, you're going to have a very good chance at a title.
He does, but I mean, I think from George's perspective, Gidley's got the lead in the championship and now sits right behind him. So that was 3 points that he just lost there in terms of gaining some of that back today.
Let's take a look at it again. I think we might be able to see at a corner station some green flags being displayed, and if that's the case, then this is pretty cut and dry. There's the green flag there, so unless the safety car is issued between then and now, everything should be fine. Let's keep an eye up.
Yeah. The other thing is with the yellow flag, say there's a yellow flag right in this corner, you're still green until you get to that station, so it should be good.
Right, and no full course yellow displayed at the corner station right at the entry to turn 9 either. So I think that was good. Well done. Anthony Bartone racing his way past the reigning champion to take second place with about 5 minutes left at the time, 3 minutes left now behind the safety car, and the question becomes,
slow the safety car down.
Right.
Because if he gets back around, then there's no way we can do another lap behind the safety car.
So from where we're positioned out the window, I can see the cleanup in process. There are 3 safety vehicles still on the site. I don't think the car has been taken away yet either. It really is a race against the clock to try and get a restart. George Kurtz is pulling alongside. This is the universal symbol that he wants race control to take a look to see whether or not that pass should stand. But
well, there's other factors involved. It is not just by the flag station, it's by when they call it as well. So if the corner workers didn't get the yellow flags out in time, it's not just by the visual of the corner worker station. I think they have reversed that position.
There you have it.
Yep. So if it was called on the radio, and the driver info in the car is getting that, and maybe George had seen that, so
it had to have been close.
Yes,
it did. Still an eye-opening performance this weekend from Anthony Bartone, and a podium still is pretty sweet, I have to believe, for someone who is so new to racing at this level. I don't think there's any hope of a restart because the safety car here coming through 9, the cleanup is still happening out our window.
Yeah,
so
you're not going to get back around and beat the clock, so not unless he runs a track record.
But hey, let's remember, we had a spin on the formation
Avison was
lap.
waving at someone there. Did you see that?
No, I missed it.
So there's the green flag, but it's not just by the corner worker stations. There's also information being fed to the car directly, the driver directly in the car over the radio as well. So if the call is made full course yellow, sometimes there's a delay in the corner worker getting that message and changing the flag in time for the drivers to see that. So there's multiple avenues of information being given for the same call.
And the way that it's explained to the drivers is any one of those avenues is enough for it to go in place. So if it's only the flags, or if it's only what you see on your dash in the car, or if it's only the race control call over the radio, any one of those things is enough to trigger full course yellow. You don't have to have all 3 or a preponderance or anything like that. Well, let's reflect on this weekend for Adam Adelson. weren't sure what to expect. It was his debut weekend in SRO GT3 competition. Did do the 24 hours of Dubai and did well. But when we spoke to him in the paddock, and he started saying things like, I was born to drive this car, you had a sense that the confidence was there and the pace has been there to match it. And for John Branham, this is really cool. This is a guy who is a stunt driver. He's a racing coach. He's from Miami. Kind of started going up the open wheel ladder at one time, and opportunities dried up, but has found himself a home in the coaching world. And with that, chance to get in the race seat, and now looks like a race win heading his way in just a few minutes.
Yeah, and that's great news for that whole group. I mean, for he's with TR3, got that mixed up there, so that's a really good operation, runs these Aston Martins.
Yeah, based out of Florida as well. Great job by John. He had to, once he drove to the lead, and he did this, let's go back to that actually. He started last.
Yeah.
He started last in the GT4 field and came up through the field, admittedly on a weekend where it looks like the Aston GT4 platform was the one to have. But Rob Holland showed it could be done yesterday, so great performance nonetheless. Behind the safety car, the checkered flag flies for Adam Adelson, who wins overall, his first career win in GT America powered by AWS. 2 poles, 2 podiums in a race win this weekend for him. And there's the TR3 group celebrating as John Branham scores victory in his Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT4, the winner in the GT4 class.
Great job by that group. I apologize for getting mixed up there with TRG and TR3, but great performance to climb through this field.
Yeah.
There's a bit of argy-bargy there in the middle that created that opportunity, but he had the speed. He was absolutely flying here today.
Several drivers, especially in the GT4 ranks, have to be thinking what might have been today. Rob Howland, who had a solid lead in a good race car. It looked like maybe the handling had gone off late in the run that allowed Todd Coleman to get up alongside, and that contact ultimately put an end to Rob's race and scuppered Todd's too. CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race, by the way, to Mamo Gidley, who finishes 4th. So off the podium, but still a decent day for a driver who has championship aspirations and won one day ago.
Yeah, really solid start to the season. Really good at St. Pete. It was a big win for him yesterday, having a family, and as Amanda said, he had his little daughter on the grid, Emmy, 2 years old. Rachel is his older daughter, so fun to have the family here to see his success.
Provisional race results. Adam Adelson over Anthony Bartone. Actually, that should be switched back, we believe. Kurtz should be the runner-up. Bartone should be 3rd. Gidley just off the podium in 4th. Daskalos and Washington had a fun scrap over the course of the second half of that race, and Todd Treffert, in his first racing at this level, comes from a vintage background. Solid, quiet weekend. That's the kind of weekend I think he was hoping for as he stepped into wheel-to-wheel racing at this level for the first time.
Now seeing another order correction with the 427 in front of the 04. So
okay.
Lots going on here, keeping us on our toes today.
All right, so Bartone over Kurtz, 2nd and 3rd. That's been swapped around again. We'll try and get some clarity on that. Mirko Schultes, bit of a quiet day at the Callaway Corvette, comes home 8th. Andy Wilczak in 9th. John Branham wins in the GT4 class. Elias Sabo and Ross Schwest completing the podium. Solid weekend for Ross, the reigning champion, and this was his recipe for a title last year. Just consistent, strong finishes.
Yeah, and they've been doing that. They don't have the outright pace that we saw at the end of last year, so I'm sure they want to get into winner's circle, but putting points on the board is certainly important to build the championship.
What did you say earlier? Every car is a good-looking car when it's fast. Well, this one has the perfect combination. It looks sharp and it goes fast. I think there's a wheelman behind the wheel in that car, and Adam Adelson, who's about to climb out and celebrate his first ever win in a GT3 car here in GT America powered by AWS. John Wright, the team owner, coming in to give him a big hug. The crew will celebrate. And the smile, you can see it from under the helmet.
double A, maybe we'll call him A+. Be excited. It's a great performance, just took off there at the start. Kurt's got close to him there for a moment in the race, but just really controlled, no mistakes, just seems so settled behind the wheel of this Porsche.
Well, the helmet is off goes the balaclava, and I can see our Amanda Busick is ready to talk to our winner.
Well, Adam, I think one of the quotes of the weekend was you telling us earlier that you were born to drive a GT3, and everything that you've entered in GT3 machinery this weekend, you've been on the podium, now on the top step here in GT America. How proud are you of this switch?
Incredibly. I mean, as I said yesterday, it's Wright Motorsports give me an amazing car. It's a world-class program, and it really makes my job as a driver significantly easier. The winds out there were pretty tricky today, making it really difficult to manage tire, experiencing different behaviors of the car in areas of the tracks like the S's that are pretty sketchy. But, you know, I had faith that it was a car that I could trust, and I believed in myself, and look where that gets us.
Congratulations, Adam.
Thank you so much.
Big smile and a first win, and what looks like first of many for Adam Adelson, who has been a quick study in that transition from GT4 to GT3.
Yeah, you brought up a good point about the wind. It's a little strong there as we look out the window, so it affects these race cars, certainly through the high-speed sections there. So it was keeping him on his toes, but he didn't seem to blink, did he? It was very settled from outside anyway, but he certainly said he had his hands full.
From the back to the front, your GT4 winner is with Amanda.
Exactly that, and it had to be a heck of a drive. I tried to talk to your team about what you might be relaying to them, and they said they barely heard from you all race, so I'm sure your head down was on the attack. Talk about the drive from the back to the front and seeing that checkered flag.
You know, I was just trying to keep it clean, keep the car together in one piece, stay out of everyone's way. And to be fair, this was sort of a last-minute switch. Paul Keebler had a family emergency, so our thoughts and prayers are with him. But, you know, I can't say enough about this TR3 racing team. I've known Greg Romanelli for a long time. We've been really good friends for about 10 years. And the opportunity to drive for him is just a dream come true. It's really great.
Congratulations, John.
Thank you.
I was wondering about that. I thought Paul did start the race yesterday, so a last-minute switch, and we send our thoughts to Paul Keebler as well. Highlights of race 2, green flag waves, and Adam Adelson from the pole, second straight day, leads the field into turn 1. That was after a safety car start. That's why it was single file at the beginning. Rob Holland, the pole sitter in GT4, consolidated that lead early. Then this spin from Nick Shaney certainly delayed his day. This was the crucial moment, though, Cal, in GT4.
Yeah, suddenly Coleman there got on the attack and caught the leader. Just a little brush there. I mean, he got the call for incident responsibility, but this was a great move here by Bartone. He was on the attack inside of Gidley, our championship leader.
How many times do we see him make that move? Cut and paste all race long. This was the off from Jason Bell that brought out the safety car at the end of the race, but before the safety car was deployed, Bartone got this move made around George Kurtz. That was for second, but it was Adam Adelson who brought it home behind the safety car to win race 2 of the weekend here at Sonoma.